push your 2-speed in, and now this gear will spin. You want to make sure to keep your toothbrush clean at all times too.
Look at all that stuff coming off.
Yeah. Okay, now that we got that all cleaned up, you can take a Q-tip to it again, just to clean up any mess from the toothbrush. Now we're going to want to go ahead and re-grease the gear. Same thing like all our other gears, Teflon base grease. And again, we're just going to do just half of the gear with grease. And again, you want to try to do it as clean as possible. You don't want any extra globs of grease hanging off the gears. I'm going to take it out of the 2-speed, at a low speed, and put it back into high. Now the small gear will be able to spin. We'll go ahead and grease that up.
You're saying it's not necessary to go all the way around.
Nope. Once you turn the handle and the gear starts spinning, it's just going to disperse the grease throughout the whole gear. And again, if you got any extra grease on the gear, you can go ahead and just clean it up. That's it. And now you're going to want to go ahead and just clean up your clicker plate. Make sure there's no salt. Just like that. The bearing, you just want to check the bearing, make sure it feels good. Feels pretty smooth. Just add a little drop of oil onto it. Spin around. And that's it for the right side plate. Now we're ready to put the reel back together. Now what you're going to do, this one's pretty easy when putting back together, when lining it up, because of the harness clip. Slots right into the frame. So all you got to do is just come straight down. And again, when you're matching the gears back up, it's good just to kind of turn the handle, get things moving. That way they kind of just fall into place by itself, just like that. That's it, and you're ready to start tightening down the bolts. Just put a little dab of grease on the tip of the screw, that way it won't corrode into the frame when the salt builds up. But if you are properly maintaining your reels after every trip, rinsing them off, you shouldn't have a problem with them corroding in your frame. I got it all tightened up. Just get a fresh towel. Give it a nice wipe down. Get the plate nice and shiny. Get your greasy fingerprints all off of it.
Boy, they clean up nice.
They do.
Beautiful reels.
Yep.
They'll last a lifetime, won't they?
They will. As long as they're properly maintained, they will last forever. And that's all it is, clean and servicing your Tiagra. In addition to doing the basic maintenance on the reels after every trip, we're going to go ahead and take it a step further and get into the insides of the reel and do a little clean and servicing of the gears and drags and all the other stuff that's probably required about every year or every season of fishing. We're going to go ahead and start by removing the left side plate of the reel, which is just removing these 4 screws. Now you're going to want to go do is remove the side plate. Then you want to remove the spool just by grabbing the idle gear on the side and just pulling the spool right out. And now we're going to start tearing apart the right side plate. What you want to do is remove this handle nut screw. We're going to take the handle assembly off the reel. Little nut retainer should just come right off. If there is a little corrosion on it, you can just get underneath it with a flathead screwdriver, pull it right off. And now we're going to take off the handle nut. We use a 12mm nut driver.
And it's better to use a nut driver than another.
Yeah, we find that it's better to use a nut driver. You strip out less bolts. Just remove the handle by pulling up. Now, there's going to be a little washer underneath the handle. Just want to keep that with the handle. Now you just want to back off your star drag, just like if you were backing off your drag. And when you pull this star off, you want to be careful that there's a spring-loaded pin in there. You just want to make sure you want to pull it off slowly so it doesn't shoot out. And the pin-loaded spring is right there, and that's the one that just popped off. So you just kind of want to make sure. I usually just kind of slowly just push that washer down so your thumb will stop it from shooting out. But once you got that out, you just want to set it somewhere where it's not going to get lost, because they do get lost easily. And then once you do that, you just want to remove your pressure washer stack. I usually just leave it together, that way you don't get confused on what order to put it back in, and leave it how it is. And then next, you want to start removing the side plate screws.
And again, those are just Phillips head.
Just a Phillips head screwdriver. Yeah, there's 8 total. There's 4 of the same screws, 4 of the big screws, and then you got 2 separate ones. The ones on the inside in the middle of the reel are the dome top. The ones on the outside are the more squared off top. Now that we got all the screws loosened up, what we're going to do is just lift the side plate off. Sometimes there might be a random screw that's still hanging up. Now once it's all loosened up, it just pulls straight off the top. And what you want to do is just set the side plate down. So you just set it down. And now we're ready to get into the reel. First, we're going to take off the yoke springs. Set those down without getting lost. And now with the same thing with our baitcaster reels, what you got to do is you got to break the drag away from the gear. So you want to spin it backwards. Just give it a break. You'll kind of feel it break. And then as you're pulling up, you want to just kind of turn and pull up at the same time.
You can feel it when it lets go.
Yeah, you'll feel it when it'll kind of just lose its suction. And once you got that off, just set that down. And then what you want to do is just take the pinion gear and pull it straight off. Okay, now that we have the gears out, what we're going to want to do is just kind of go through this side plate or this set plate right here and kind of just clean up the excess grease all over the reel. Best thing to use is just a regular Q-tip. Just kind of start scooping up some of the excess grease that came off the gears and the drag from the last servicing.
Lots of Q-tips. Huh?
Lots of Q-tips. Q-tips are your best friend in fixing a reel. You want to make sure this little hole for the pinion gear is nice and clean of any grease, because we don't want that getting in the pinion gear. And now you do want to leave a little bit of grease right here on your clutch plate. That way it can move freely back and forth and smoothly. So you do want to leave a little bit of grease in that area. Okay, now that we have this cleaned up, we're ready to move on to our gear and our drag stack. There will be a drag washer underneath the gear. So you just want to pull this off the gear. You can set the gear down. You can start by cleaning this drag washer and relubing it. Best thing to do is just get a paper towel and just clean all the excess grease off the drag washer.
And you don't need to do that flat. You can do it holding it.
You can do it, it's best to do it flat, just in case you do break it. It is kind of a carbon material, kind of like a graphite material, so it is brittle and it can break. So it is good to you can lay it down and do it. That'd be the safest way to do it.